I mean, I'm excited, but I just don't feel like I'm getting the support that I need. I feel like I can really do something different with the show. And to think, I'm filling the shoes of the Seth Wyatt.
Don't fool yourself, kid. You'll never be half the talk show host I am. Everyone's already predicting that your season will be a total flop.
Hey, kid, listen up.
Hang on. What do you want?
It's showtime. You better get your act together real quickly, you little blonde-haired muppet.
Oh. Okay, well, let's get the show on the road. I'll have to call you back. Welcome to Last Week TeenPact. I'm your host, David Smith, and I'm super excited to be here this season. On this show, we'll be keeping with tradition from last season and bringing you the latest in TeenPact news in a way that's both entertaining and hopefully provides you with some new perspective. Now, our first story has to do with TeenPact presidential elections. Very much the Last Jedi side plot of TeenPact. Everyone knows that it's important for some reason, but not everyone knows why. Now, as difficult as it may be to believe, the TeenPact season is drawing to a close, and we're beginning to get hype for National Convention, especially for the presidential election, where many tickets have already formally announced their candidacy. So far, of the announced tickets, we have the Grayson Livers Finn Berry campaign, the Noah Striley Krista Kaufman campaign, the Matthew Pettis Mary Michelle Matz campaign, the Truman Forehand Grant Johnson campaign, the Nathaniel Tangle Katrina Uzatinsky campaign, the Marius Sidonis Anna Grace Barley campaign, and the Carissa Gould Toby DeMoss campaign. In analyzing the election season this year, there are already several noticeable differences from the previous season. For one, everything is very delayed. Last season, we had tickets vying for support even before staff training in early January. But the first campaign announcement this year didn't even happen until late February, and we're still waiting for the bulk of the pack to formally announce their messages. Most likely, this significant change is a result of fear that a surprise power ticket will come out of nowhere and flatten their unsuspecting opponents like a pancake. But that would never happen. Additionally, there has been a distinct difference in general public reception to campaign announcements. While in previous years, campaigns could expect a veritable flood of encouraging, if occasionally forced, posts on their Facebook group when they announced, this year it was reduced to a handful or none at all in some cases. Whether this speaks more to the reduced usage of Facebook for communication among Gen Zers or to a more deep-rooted disinterest in presidential elections this year remains to be seen. As we get closer to National Convention, we'll be looking to break down the election progress. And now, this.
And now, Brett Bassmeier and Ben Sullivan remind us that they also ran for TeenPact president.
Well, President Martin, thank you so much for sparing us a few of your precious moments. But while we're on the topic of time, have you done anything as president? Yeah, that's great, President Martian. But how about you get back to Earth so we can talk about some real issues? Moving on to something important, I know a lot of people were surprised because there were some great candidates running for election last year, specifically in the presidential election. And I know a lot of my people were really surprised that you ended up winning.
Okay.
You know, that's a great question. In 2015, I ran for president alongside one of my good friends, Mally McGee. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We came up short by a few votes. It was terrible. You don't remember me? I mean, come on, count the cost. Orange t-shirts, it looked like a bunch of creamsicles were running around.
Well, Ben, the problem is maybe it's been a couple years, and so people just don't remember back far. Maybe they remember, only as far as last year, when I actually ran for TeenPact president. Right, they won, they ran, but don't you remember the second place ticket? Great. Yes, Taylor Beth still is, pretty cool. But the thing is, she wasn't the only one on the ticket. There's another person on the ticket. Justin, that guy it is me.
Frank, could it really be this bad? Like, do people really not remember that we ran?
For 5 Starbursts, 3 Hershey Kisses, and my social security number, who almost won last year in the TeenPact elections?
It was Brett last final.
No!
Who all ran for president in 2015 election?
2015?
Yes.
Luke Martin,
Yes.
Elijah Knapp,
Yes.
and Emily Sullivan.
No! No!
Hey, Anna, you think I would have made a good president?
That's all we have for tonight, folks. Thanks for tuning in to TeenPact Network News.
Moving on, we turn to our main story. And if you've been around TeenPact for a while, you've probably heard a phrase that goes something like this.
TeenPact exists to train youth to understand the political process, to value their liberty, to defend the Christian faith, and to engage with the culture at a time in their lives when typically they don't care about such things.
Yes, that right there is the bulk of the official TeenPact Mission Statement. It's often used as a concise way to explain what TeenPact does. We've all been there. It's the week after state class and one of your friends says to you, "Hey Luke, what's that TeenPact thing you posted about on Instagram last week?" After getting over the involuntary response of utter disgust at hearing the name of the ministry mangled like that, we often resort to either awkwardly saying something about a homeschool government camp, which sounds like the premise of a really bad 90s sitcom, or reciting the TeenPact Mission Statement, like that verse you hastily memorized in the car on the way to Awana. Oh, that's right. We know you didn't memorize Romans 8:28 at home, Nathaniel. And while all this fancy language about valuing our liberty, defending the Christian faith, and engaging the culture sounds impressive, and the phrase itself is quite common in the ministry, the actual meaning can be lost on some, especially people that have never had any part with TeenPact. In general homeschool circles, TeenPact is often known merely by its political merits, as that homeschool government camp. There's sort of a misconception out there that TeenPact is like some sort of Willy Wonka, quasi-cult, conservative politician indoctrination factory. However, this is far from the truth. And indeed, the ministry itself has been taking some very clear steps to shed this perceived identity. Originally, the slogan of TeenPact was turning students into statesmen, but was eventually changed to changing lives to change the world, precisely because TeenPact is about far more than just teaching teens about government. Just a few years back, the board of directors added the overarching phrase, inspiring youth in their relationship with Christ, to the mission statement to unify its purpose and better reflect the emphasis that it has on discipleship. And more recently, the ministry has been updating their social media branding to reflect that emphasis. All this is not to say that the political training has no value, or that TeenPact is pulling a fast one on parents with some sort of Nigerian prince bait-and-switch scheme to promise politics, but actually teach about Jesus instead. Understanding the political process and knowing how to engage the culture around us are still extremely important parts of the ministry, and they're distinctives that make us unique, but they aren't the ultimate goal. The end-all be-all of everything that we do as Christians should be nothing less than to encourage others in faith and glorify God above all else. And although it's no secret that the majority of TeenPact folks lean towards the conservative end of the political spectrum, the perception that the ministry is trying to raise up an army of mindless Republican politicians could not be further from the truth. In an age with a lot of opinions and without a lot of sound reason, TeenPact is seeking to teach people to understand why they believe what they believe, as anyone who's ever gotten their brain fried by a TeenPact PD and alumni track can attest to. But for now, that's enough brain frying from us. So we'll end our show here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to follow the TeenPact Comedy on Facebook and Instagram, and join us next time on Last Week TeenPact. Good night.
Well, how'd I do?
Well, you didn't crash the plane.
We didn't even use the plane.
I know. That's why you didn't crash it. Also, it's Marius Sidonus and Anna Grace Borelli, not Marius M. Borelli, you blonde bouffon.
This guy is such a grump. You know, you can't please anybody these days.